Hello and welcome to the MoneySavingExpert.com Dealing with Problem Debts video guide. Now this is just an introductory guide, it goes with the article, so please read the article as well. But I thought I'd spend a few minutes just to talk you through what you need to be doing and how it works. I think the most important place to start is stop, don't panic. Millions of people in the UK are in debt. Many of them are worried about their debts and don't know what to do, and yet with all those different cases, as long as I've been doing this, I have never yet heard of one that isn't solvable somehow. I'm not saying it'll always be easy and I'm not saying it'll always be quick, but it is dealable with. Not one. You, in a good way, are not special. And it's really important I say that. You know, there's a funny American term called catastrophizing. And what that means is people tend to, once they start having problems, think of them as a huge catastrophe. I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my family, I'm going to lose my entire life. Well, you're not. You're going to have to deal with this, and hopefully we'll get through it as well as we possibly can. One of the problems is once the adrenaline starts to run, you stop thinking logically. So what I want to do now is say, hold on there. Let's just take this slowly. There are steps you need to try step by step to get through your debt problems, and we're going to talk about them now. Now, the most important place to start is to define which of the two main solutions is right for you. On the one hand, there's a solution for those people who are in debt crisis, and on the other hand, there's a solution for those people who have bad debts, problem debts, worrying debts, but aren't in debt crisis. And it may sound like it's a fine line, but it's really important. So, let me give you my definition of debt crisis first. If you can't meet the minimum repayments for all your debts and or don't have enough money to meet the basic necessary outgoings, your rent, buying the shopping in the supermarket or wherever you buy your shopping, your gas and electricity bills, you're in debt crisis. That's it. If you cannot meet the minimums, you're in debt crisis. If you've got big debts but you can afford to meet the minimums, even if they're worrying, even if they're scaring the pants off you, you're not in debt crisis, you've got problem debts, and the solution's different. I'll talk quickly about what the two solutions are. The first one, debt crisis. I'm going to go on to this a bit later on. But effectively, if you're in debt crisis, there is nothing I can do here on the web that will help you that is any better than going and seeing one of the non-profit debt counselling agencies. That's it. That's your solution. Consumer Credit Counselling Service, National Debt Line, Citizens Advice Bureau. I will be talking more on this later on. They're going to do a one-on-one help session with you, maybe last an hour, go through it in detail. They're going to help you. But if you're not in debt crisis, the solution is very different. Because what they do, you see, what the debt counsellors do is they're effectively drawing a line. They're saying, that's it, this person is outside the system. We're going to negotiate with their creditors. We might look at an IVA or going bankrupt. Those are the different routes. Don't worry, they won't always say you're going bankrupt, but those are the possible things that they can do. And it's a bit like saying, okay, we need a really strict, take this person out of the system and manage and help them with their debts. If you've got problem debts, you don't want to do that. You don't want to draw the line unless you have to. In that case, what you need to do is the money-saving way, which is what I'm all about, obviously, which is looking at every single product you've got and saying, can I do it cheaper? Can I do it better? Can I save money on it? Effectively putting money back in your pockets, making your debt more affordable so you can gradually repay the debt, keep within the system, not have a harsh impact on your credit score. Now, I did say if you're in debt crisis, this isn't for you. Well, if you've just gone into debt crisis, we may be able to pull you back from the brink. So it's worth listening and reading the article anyway and going through the checklist. But you see the difference now. Debt crisis, go to one of the counselling services. Not in debt crisis, follow this checklist, do the money saving, and hopefully will prevent you from ever actually going into debt crisis. Right, enough of the introduction. It's time to start the checklist. Now, there's an old adage in money management that says never borrow to get out of debt. Do you know, I disagree with that slightly. I would like to tweak it to be never borrow more to get yourself out of debt. Because if you can get cheaper borrowing elsewhere and you can shift your debts there at a cheaper rate, it means more of your money will go towards repaying the actual debt rather than repaying the interest. And that's what this checklist is all about. Cutting the cost of your debt and making it easier to repay. So I'm going to go in order of the things you should try. Some of the first ones won't work for people who are quite severely in debt or already have a bad credit score, but let's run through them anyway. Number one, the best way, doing a credit card balance transfer. This is when you get a new credit card that pays off the debts on your old credit card for you. So you owe the new credit card the money at a much cheaper interest rate. The reason that's first is the cheapest credit cards are without doubt the cheapest way to borrow. You can get around 5% long-term borrowing on a credit card. Really, really cheap, cheaper than a loan, worth trying, or if you're willing to play the system and have a good credit score, you can be a credit card tart and get perpetual 0% debts. So that's the first thing to try. Now in each one of these, here's the little note. Once you know what you're doing, if you look in the article, it'll link you through to a full article going in huge detail on how to do each one. But it's just worth thinking step by step what you should be doing. Number 2, check out a personal loan. It comes after credit cards because they're more expensive. If you've got a decent credit score, you should be able to get a loan for 6 or 7%, much cheaper than high street credit card borrowing, and personal loans do have an advantage over credit card. The borrowing is structured, which means you've got a fixed monthly repayment to make. And therefore for those people who lack discipline, at least having this structured repayment means you will be paying the debt off. On a credit card you could just pay the minimum repayments, which means you would never clear it. So that's the next thing to look at. Number 3 on my list. Listen, if you're struggling to get credit and you don't know why, you need to check your credit reference files. Every time you apply for a new product, you're credit scored by the lender, and that depends on 3 things. Your application form details, any past dealings they've had with you, and huge amounts of financial data that are kept at the 3 credit reference agencies, Equifax, Experian and Call Credit. So you need to check your files to check there isn't an error, and if you go to the article you'll see there's a loophole on how to do it for free. You can check them for free. They don't like it, but you can do it and it won't impact your credit score doing it for free. Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything to damage you here. Number 4, now this is one of my own, quite a special one this. I call it the credit card shuffle, because everything in the past that I've already mentioned relies on you getting new credit to cut the cost of your debts. Now the shuffle is a technique where you can use your existing credit cards to get cheaper rates. It works a bit like this. Let's take for example a Barclaycard. At the time I'm recording this, if you're a Barclaycard existing customer, you're probably paying 17 or 18%. But if you call Barclaycard up, that's my impression of the phone, bad I know, but let's get on with it. You call Barclaycard up and you say, listen, I've got debts on other credit cards. Can I shift them to you? Do you have a rate? Right now, as I'm recording this, it may change as you're watching this in the future. They will say, yes, you can shift debts to us at 6.9%, and that rate will last until all the debts you've shifted has been repaid. So they have these hidden, never talked about, existing customer balance transfer offers. What the shuffle's all about is utilising those so you don't need new credit. You just simply move all your debts around on your existing credit cards to where they're cheapest, and with your overdraft to where they're cheapest, and then you pay off the highest interest rate first. Doesn't sound much, but I remember one guy for a programme I was doing for ITV where he had roughly interest costs of 1,400 quid, and I managed to cut that to 400 quid a year from 1,400 without any new credit by using the credit card shuffle. So it's well worth trying. Next on my list is use savings. If you have any savings at all, use them to pay off your debts. Think of it like this. You've got £1,000 in a saving account. Even at the best rate, it'll be paying you around 4% after tax, 40 quid a year. £1,000 on a high street credit card, 18% interest. It costs you 180 quid a year. One's making you 40 quid, one's costing you 180 quid. If you use the £1,000 of saving to pay off the £1,000 of credit card, you're £120 a year better off. It's a no-brainer. Why, you may say, is it then number 5 in the list, not number 1 in the list? Well, quite simply because what I wanted to do was, first of all, we've tried to move all your debt where it's cheapest. The likelihood is if you're watching this, you haven't got big savings. You just don't have them. So you've only got a small amount. So now we know what your most expensive debt is. We're at 0.5. You can take those savings and use them to pay off the most expensive debt. If you'd done it earlier, it might have all gone wrong because you might have been paying off the wrong debt. That's why it comes in at this point. And if you're saying to me, but I like my savings, they make me safe and secure. I don't want to get rid of my savings. Well, look, let's be clinical about this. You use the savings to pay off the credit cards. That means, I'm not saying cut up the credit cards, you've still got the credit cards. If you had to, in a really strict, dire, terrible, roof burnt down, can't keep the roof over your kid's head type of emergency, you could spend again on those credit cards because you've still got access to the credit. But in the meantime, you've paid them off so you're not paying interest. So don't have any, if you've got debts, don't have a savings emergency fund, simply pay off the debts and have the ability to borrow back if you had to. But when I say had to, I mean had to. Next on the list is remortgaging. Remortgaging simply means moving to a new mortgage deal that's hopefully cheaper, but even if it isn't cheaper, you might be able to stuff your other debts onto your mortgage. This is commonly used as a solution to get out of debt. I'm not the biggest fan of it. It often works quite well. Why am I not a fan? Simple. Because 5% interest, typical mortgage rate, over 20 years is much more expensive than 10% interest over 5 years. So while the rate may be lower on a mortgage, actually because you're extending the length of time you're borrowing, you will pay more in the long run. And crucially, mortgage debt is secured on your home. That means if you can't repay it, the lender can grab your house and take it away from you. Credit cards, unsecured loans, which are normal loans, most loans, they're not secured on your home, so it's much more difficult for them to take your home. So you're shifting this unsecured debt where they can't take your home into a secured debt where they can. I don't like that. Having said that, it'll save you money, and if you have the ability to overpay, so you've got some form of flexible features on the mortgage where you could pay it back more quickly, it's not a bad deal. But it's not the no-brainer a lot of people think it is. Putting money on your mortgage, it may be cheap, but it lasts a long time, and, well, if you can't repay it, you're going to be in big troubles. Also, it may mean ancillary costs like life assurance on the mortgage may have to go up. Having said that, if you're moving to a much cheaper mortgage, you may be able to move a lot of debt onto it without actually increasing the amount that you pay each month. Read the Remortgage guide. There's a full printout guide on the site on how to do that for more information. Right, the final one, secured lending. This is also a loan, but here it's a special type of loan that's secured on your home. In other words, if you can't pay it off, you lose your home. They don't make a big play of that. These are commonly the adverts you see on the TV saying, hey, consolidate all your debts in one big easy repayment. Do you know, I always debate whether I'm even going to include this. Secured loans are only suitable for 3% of the people who take them out. They're commonly missold, misadvertised, they're dangerous. They are very rarely suitable. Most people shouldn't get them. But in some circumstances where you can afford to repay them, it's going to cut the cost of your debt and you cannot move the money onto your mortgage, they can work. Be very careful getting a secured loan. If you're going to do it, read my secured loan article that includes links on how to make sure you're getting the cheapest possible secured loan and includes a big checklist of things to do before getting a secured loan. If even one person got a secured loan because of me saying this, that wasn't right for them, I would feel terrible. So please be very, very careful. You may just be in those 3%, but the vast likelihood is you're in the 97% of people for whom a secured loan isn't suitable. Unless we cut the amount of money you're spending and try and bring more cash in, none of this is going to work. So this section's about that, but to be honest, I could talk on this for 17 years. The entire website, moneysavingexpert.com, self-evidently is about cutting the cost of things, from train fares to contact lenses to mortgages to credit cards or buying shares, whatever it is. So the most important thing is you go through every single relevant article that you possibly can and try and cut the cost of things. But I thought I'd draw out 3 big things that you should be doing. Number 1, the most important, the crucial, the definite, the one not to miss. Budget. Budget, 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 budget. Look, it may sound trite and it may sound boring, but budgeting is crucial to getting yourself out of debt. You need to know how much money is coming in, you need to know where you're spending it, and you need to plan and control that expenditure. If you're watching this video, you've got problem debts, you need to do this. Now, most budgets don't work. I devised one that I think does work, but it will take you probably an hour and a half to do, and you need all your bank statements. Why is it different? Well, instead of sectioning it out month by month, what it says is, okay, some things we spend by the week, some by the month, some by the year. And it then puts those all into a monthly expenditure. For example, you spend 600 quid on Christmas a year, that's £50 a month. And unless you try and spread the cost over the year, come December, you're going to have to borrow money to pay the cost of Christmas, and we don't want you to do that. So the first thing you do is you list all your income, then you list all the year's expenditure, and after that, you then list your desired expenditure, so you are spending less than you earn. And I tell you, there's a button you press there which will tell you how much you're spending more or less than you earn. It's not a pleasant experience when you press that button. Will it be green? Will it be red? One's good, one's bad. You'll find out, but it's worth doing. So please do a budget, plan your expenditure, go through everything you spend money on while you're doing it. When you come to the list, gas and electricity, come onto the site, see if you can cut the cost. Contact lenses, see if you can cut the cost. Buying books for college, see if you can cut the cost. There is nothing you cannot cut the cost on, both on the website and in the forum. Don't give up. Don't spend a penny unnecessarily. We're trying to get you out of debt. You have to do the work, you have to budget. And if you're thinking, how long is this going to take me? As long as it needs to. You're in a bad situation if you're watching this article. Take a day off work if you have to. Take a day's holiday to sort all this out. It will be better paid. Let me tell you, you'll get more money doing this than you will going to work. You have to do the work. No apology. This isn't simple. It isn't easy. It will pay a fortune in the long run. I get letters all the time. It's one of the things I'm most proud of in the world, for people telling me that when they discovered the site, since then they've worked very hard and they've cleared their £20,000, £30,000 worth of debt. You can do it too, but you have to do the work. Here we can only provide the information. Next on the list, the final one, benefits. You'd be surprised that in the UK, families who earn £66,000 or less could be eligible for benefits. £66,000! It's not the tiny you're out of work situation that you think you are. If you're a family under 66 grand, there are some benefits available. If you're in work earning less than £16,000, there are benefits available. If you've got disabilities or various other conditions and things going around you, there are benefits available. It takes 5 minutes to do a checkup. There's an article on the site that links to another little website called entitled2.com. That will give you a benefit checkup in 5 minutes. It's free, go do it. But remember, anything you spend money on, I don't care if it's the gym, I don't care if it's petrol, whatever it is, there are ways to save. Petrolprices.com will tell you the cheapest petrol station in your area. Go do it. Where to get help? Well, if you need help and you're in debt crisis, remember again, that means you can't meet your minimum repayments on things, you need to go to one of the non-profit debt counselling agencies. That's not the same as free. There are lots of companies out there who say free debt help. They're still going to make profit from you or from the lender, which means the money that you're repaying is going to paying them, not to clearing your debts. Don't touch them with a barge pole. My view, some people say I'm wrong. I simply think that one of the 3 non-profit agencies, the main ones, Consumer Credit Counselling Service, National Debt Line, Citizens Advice Bureau, is the way to deal with this, because they are not there to make money from you. They are there to help you. That is their remit. Now, the way they do that is generally with debt management plans, which means you'll be put on a plan. They will negotiate with your lenders to freeze the interest. As I said earlier, this is drawing a line and taking you outside the system, but it means things will start to be paid. If it's more severe, they might suggest an IVA, which is a sort of cut down version of bankruptcy without you actually having to go bankrupt, or going bankrupt itself, which is nowhere near as big and scary as you think. Look, what we're trying to do here, if you're in debt crisis, is get you out of it. In the short or in the long term, is to stop people chasing you, is to stop you having sleepless nights. This is the best way. The amount of feedback I get from people who, after they've had their first meeting, they just write or email and go, oh, I feel so much better. They're not there to judge you, the people that you're going to meet. They're just there to help you. Now, something I should bring up at this point. Many people out there hide their debts. You may be hiding them from yourself by not adding up how much in debt you are. Well, if you're doing that, you need to add it up. You're here, you've started, you're on the path. You need to add up what your debts are. But you also might be hiding it from your partner or your parents or your loved ones or the people who depend on you and who count. That's incredibly difficult, because you may be thinking, if I tell my partner my relationship's over, I can't do it. I don't know what to do. And I understand that that's a problem. There's no easy way around this. But my suggestion to you would be, make an appointment with one of the debt counselling agencies. Go by yourself the first time. Talk to them. Write down the solution that they're talking about. Once you have the solution, then go to your partner. Go to your partner at that point and say, look, I'm not proud of this, but I've got us into debt. It's a real problem. I'm very worried about it. I'm sorry. But I've been to a debt counselling agency and there is a path, a way out of this. I'd like you to join me in this. I'd like your help and your support in what we're doing. And we're going to go back to the next appointment with the debt counsellors together. Present them with the solution, not a problem, and hopefully you will be better off. The final thing to say is there's an amazing community called Debt Free Wannabe in the chat forum on the website. This is where hundreds and thousands of people gather together, share their stories about how to get out of debt. If you're brave enough, you'll post a statement of affairs. That means you'll literally list all your financial details, but don't put anything that it's possible that someone could come and rob your bank account. Just put the generic details in there. Statement of affairs, we call it. What your TV licence is, do you have Sky, do you have a car, how much you're paying petrol. And they will pick over it like you wouldn't believe. They will come in there rapidly attacking all your expenditure to show you the different ways you can cut back. They say there's nothing worse than a convert. And all the people in there are people who've been there themselves, who are working hard to get out of debt. The debt-free wannabe motto is proud to be dealing with my debts. But don't expect them to be too nice. They will pick over your extraneous expenditure and say, "Oi, why are you a smoker? Get rid of that." That's it. I hope you found this video guide useful. Remember, it's really just an introductory guide to go with the whole article, and that article is designed to link you through to the much more detailed articles in each of the different sections. Let me repeat what I said at the beginning. As long as I've been doing this, all the TV programs, radio programs, I have never heard of a debt situation that's insolvable. You may be sitting there right now going, "Well, you ain't heard of mine. Mine is the worst." Thousands of people say that. I've seen that posted and written so many different times. My debt situation is impossible. It's not. None of them are. They're not. You can get out of this. It might take you 2 or 3 years. You can get out of this. I've seen people on incomes of £20,000, £160,000 in debt. 3 years later, they might have gone through bankruptcy, they might have found other ways to repay it. They're clear. 4 years later, 5 years later, you can do it. Don't panic, stay relaxed, be methodological, and you'll get away. You'll be debt-free. Good luck, fingers crossed, bye-bye.